Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis. Here for our The Amazing Race Season 34 recap is Jonathan. How are you today, Jonathan?
I'm good.
I
I'm
guess it would
good.
be
I'm good.
this
I'm good.
way.
Oh, yes, there I am. I'm excited to talk about this. What do they call it? A
Mega leg.
mega leg. I was gonna call it like Megadon something or another, but yeah, mega leg.
It's a mega leg. Well, what are your overall thoughts of this episode? Like you, I think, are the Amazing Race, like connoisseur. You know good racing. I trust your opinion of an episode. What were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I thought we had good moments. But I don't know that there was any tasks that really, other than like, you know, uh, one of the good moments, there was nothing that really kind of knocked my socks off. There was basically where people kind of showed up, they kind of went out in the same kind of order, minus the motorcycle building task. But yeah, I didn't feel like it, and then it leaves me so unfulfilled with not an elimination or something along those lines.
Hi,
I know.
Diva. Yeah, not the cliffhanger.
I
I
know.
hate it. That's their way of getting around a non elimination leg. Like, come on. I want the completion of a leg every single episode. So I think it would have been a really excellent episode if it was a two-parter. If it was a 2 hour episode or the part two happened right away, I would have eaten that up. A 2 hour episode would have been awesome in my opinion. But like the fact that I have to wait till next week to see the conclusion of this. So it's like I don't know why they don't see that the momentum of like an episode needs to have the completion in order for it to be satisfying and fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's just
Like
not annoying.
Chantel's a savage. She wants tears. She wants to see people go home. No,
Yes,
it's like, but it's true. It's
I
like,
do.
why? What is the purpose of this structure? Like what does this accomplish with the viewership? And it's I can't see there being like a toss up with amongst fans and viewers who actually enjoy something like this. Like for the
That's the
most part,
point.
it has to be people who don't. So I feel like that's why we got rid of those. Survivor had them, America's Top Model had them, like those middle of the season episodes, which were like essentially like just recaps.
Recap of
And
the recap.
yeah,
Like I hate recap episodes. Like I
yeah,
watched. I was here.
yeah.
Like I
So
don't need to see like the a little bit longer episode or scene that I already saw. Thank
yeah,
you.
like when my TV tapes the extra pop Dr. Pimple Popper, I was like, I've already seen this episode. Don't waste my space. I've
Oh
already
my
seen
god,
this
you're
episode. Of
disgusting. You watch that show? I know
course I
you. I
watched
mean,
that
it's
show.
it's something that you would watch for sure.
I'm like,
I
oh my god, I have a lipoma. I have a yes.
I need to send you. There's one though. There's one that is like the grossest I've ever seen on Dr. Pimple Popper. And like when she's like popping it and how much it came out, and when she's describing the smell, I was just like repulse.
Love it.
Hi, Dolores. Yeah, when I heard mega leg, I just shaking my head. Urgh. Right? Like, I don't mind the mega leg, but like, let the mega leg be done in one night. I don't want it to be extended in 2 nights. I'm wondering if it's because maybe the producers, some of them came from soap operas. Because like soap operas, like they kind of always have to leave you on some sort of cliffhanger in order for you to tune in tomorrow.
I mean, I watch soap operas, and I apparently I watch everything, but I watch soap operas, and so I'm still way more fulfilled by my Days of Our Lives than I am with a Mega Leg.
Mega leg cliffhanger.
So, what does that have to say about it? I don't know.
Well, and especially okay, and with just overall with this leg, and like definitely a big mix up with some like teams that were in the front are going to be in the back and stuff like that. Like I didn't feel good where it left me with my favorite team as well. And so like I would want to see them like it be conclusive, like either they're going home and they couldn't figure it out and make up time, or they excel and they get to the front of the pack. Like I just needed to see a full episode because it just irritates me to be like, okay, well, yeah, this lost the momentum. Okay, do we
Yeah,
care? I'll watch still, obviously, but like
I feel like there is a way to do it where if you leave like on the edit in a moment where it's like, oh, I need to know, I need to, but I didn't get that. I don't need necessarily a conclusion. This is what I always say about shows, by the way. Let me just say
Delora loves you because you watch soap operas. I used
Days
to when I was younger. I mean,
Duel,
I watched a good 20 years of Days of Our Lives in YNR.
Days of Our Lives in the 90s when Marlena was first possessed by the devil. That's what got me.
Absolutely.
Most recently, she was possessed again, and so was many other members of the family. But
I
um,
was like, I was when Hope disappeared, like, and then even when Hope
became
came
Princess
back,
Dina and
like,
stuff. Yeah.
mhm.
Now they're like doing like if you need to watch the extras that they have besides the show that are like week long or 5 episodes where they have them just kind of on a streaming service. Those are interesting. But yeah, I think there's a way of doing it. Like, like I always reference the show with Patricia Arquette Medium, how that show necessarily sometimes didn't have like a beginning, most of the times didn't have an end. It was just like a moment in the life of, and it was a really interesting. So like some of the cases weren't concluded and
Which
all
show
that
is
kind of
this?
stuff. Medium with Patricia
Oh,
Arquette.
I love Medium.
Yeah, and it
I
was
was like, we go.
and it was, like, so arti like, but remember, like, it didn't have a lot of endings. Like, it was just kind of like sometimes it would just cut off before and you're like, "Oh, it's not about the case, it's about this," and so it was there's a way of doing these things where it makes it really interesting and really kind of it can grab you, but it's about knowing your audience and knowing what they wanna see, and you're right, it just ended in something that wasn't really, like, satisfying.
Well, and I think this okay, I'm figuring it out because like I hate when they do it on Survivor. I hate it when they do it on Big Brother, especially. I'm like, you have 3 nights a week that you can be presenting the information that is happening on the feeds. I don't need to have a cliffhanger. I want to have conclusive episodes. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I just lost my train of thought. Shoot. No, I lost
Oh
it.
my god, you were gonna solve
I
everything,
was gonna
and
solve
then
everything.
it went away. It went away.
Everything.
But I mean, I hate it too, and it's like well, especially I mean, I think I saw, like,
Oh,
Janelle
okay,
tweeting on
okay.
Big Brother. Oh, you got it. Okay, I'll stop.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
reason why I think that I want it to be a conclusive episode is because it's a competition, right? So you like it, like you go to a sporting event and you
Mhm.
watch a game. Like you want to have the game end before you leave the stadium, unless you're watching baseball and they go into like overtime and they're just inning after inning, whatever. But like in general, whenever there's some sort of competition, there's like a beginning, a start line, a middle when they're actually doing the event, and an ending. You see what the winner is, and these are all competitions and competitive reality series that like we're conditioned to want it to be conclusive. We want
Yeah.
people to pass the finish line. We want people to know the score in the end. We want to know how it ends because that's what we're conditioned to as to how we appreciate competition.
Yes.
Boom.
Insert sports reference that sounds good to whatever you just said, 'cause
Absolutely.
I
The
don't know
touchdown.
sports,
We
but
want to
yeah.
see the touchdown.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can't just leave us in the 8 there's 9 innings, right? You can't just
Exactly.
leave us in the
Dolores.
8th inning.
Dolores is like, can you imagine going to a football game and at halftime they say, can you come back tomorrow? Yeah, like it's terrible.
Listen, at least you get a show at the end if that was the case, but this just yeah, it feels very unfulfilled. So, I mean, we're all dreading this. We all knew it was coming.
Yeah. We did. We did.
And but there were some interesting parts of the episode, so let's
I mean, I love The Amazing Race. I love this season.
yeah.
When I'm watching it, even, if you didn't enjoy these tasks, I was like, if I was on this, though, this would be so amazing. Like, I'd be really fulfilled with these. It's just so sensory overload. And like, there's a lot of just different things that you're doing. And I'm really comparing it to Canada. I'm sorry, Canada. Like, when I see these episodes, and even if they're not doing things that are that great, it's
It's
just
way
so
better.
vibrant
Yeah.
and so like, ooh, it's just like it just seems a little bit more alive. Um, and yeah, I think it's comparatively, I'm just like, I love this season so much more. I'm sorry, Canada, but
Oh, it's so
just
true. They
take
were
a
like,
page.
"I'm delivering cheese in Italy." Like, they were like you saw the glee on some of the teams of just being there and doing it, right? So,
So, I mean, I would love to deliver cheese in Italy. I've been to Italy. Italy's fantastic. And like, I'd love to be there on The Amazing Race. So good. So this episode's called It's All in the Details. And so they're going to be going to Bologna. 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 But isn't that how you spell baloney as well? Or is that just Americans or North Americans changing the
Mm.
way to pronounce it?
Oh, changing the way to pronounce this sounds probably about right. So maybe. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And so it's a mega leg. So they're going to be doing 2 roadblocks, 2 detours, and visit 2 different cities, which is awesome and amazing. How about make the episode 2 hours?
You know what though? I will give it one thing which I'm sure you'll bring up very shortly. The best part of the whole episode though, the star of the show is the standard car. So,
Yes, it is. Definitely is the star of the show. And apparently, I don't know if we talked about this before. Only going to be self-driving because of COVID restrictions, and so there's not going to be any taxi driving. So in any city that they're going to be in, it will always be a self-drive. And we love a good self-drive because it
yeah.
always was so unsatisfying to me when people get taken out of the race because their cab driver gets lost or whatnot. If they get lost on their own accord, they can't read a map, they get bad directions, fine. But when it's their taxi driver taking you like the wrong way, it's so frustrating. And so I'm not
And
happy.
yeah, and we saw a little later, but we saw a team, have to switch who was the driver because of the fact it being, you know, manual and instead of an automatic, and the person in the back couldn't navigate with the map, which still blows my mind how people don't know how to read maps. But anyway, we'll get there.
Like, I mean, maybe I'm just tooting my own horn and I would be terrible. I just can't imagine being terrible. Like,
Listen,
I've
when they
read
were
maps
like,
before, right?
when Team Murphy was like, and he was like, "Do you know how to navigate with the map?" And she was like, "No."
And
I
like
was
she's
like,
an adult though. Like
"How?"
I'm sure she's at least 30,
But
right?
I just don't understand how, like, I would love to explain what the hurdle is there because, like, you know where you are. It is a path. Like, it's like a basic maze. Like, how do you not understand how to follow that? And you know where north is? Like, I just don't understand it, which I'm just fascinated because I just don't get it.
The only thing I was talking with Sarah, we're talking about not being able to read maps, is that because of new age technology, if I had a physical map and say I wasn't wearing any glasses, I'd be pinching out like the actual map,
That's true.
thinking that I could make it bigger. And I'm like, oh no, this is
There.
paper. I can't make this paper bigger. So that's what the only thing that I could picture doing. Oh, Sarah, I'm just talking about you. About me pinching out on a map potentially. Hi, Naomi. Super fun. Well, Sarah is also someone that loves a good manual drive. So they're going to be going to Arco del Melangello, and they have to choose between 2 tasks here. So head of the class or the big cheese. Which one would you want to be doing, Jonathan?
Well, I would actually go for the big cheese, which is probably unlike me because you know how Derek states, like with this sort of task, you just need to be able to do it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and it's pretty straightforward otherwise. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, although in my head, I'm like I could do this head of the class thing, which I feel like some of the teams felt like, and then they got stuck on it a little bit. So I don't know how much of a delay between each class there was, but it seemed like the cheese was pretty and this is me saying after having watched it, but I do think I'm like, cheese, how tough can that be maybe? So I do feel like I would have gone for that task this time.
Well, whatever you decided, I would go along with. I wouldn't have minded doing head of the class because I did just do like Pilates mat training, and so we had like a lot of anatomy, and then I'm still getting even more anatomy. I probably have here's an anatomy book, even like right here. You know what I mean? So I probably would have been pretty comfortable with doing that.
Yeah, if you're
Um,
like team cheerleaders as we saw, she's like, I'm a whiz at this, so absolutely, right?
Definitely, but if you were saying like let's do cheese because we know we
Yeah,
can bang that out,
yeah,
I would go with you because we don't know how difficult it's going to be. So yeah,
yeah.
I would have gone followed your lead.
And it just, even in the description, it didn't seem anything that was super lengthy, didn't seem like it was going to take all that, time to do. I just don't know why more people didn't pick it actually.
So Sarah's saying here that cheese turned out to be so much easier. You don't actually have to carry it. You put it on a cart. Absolutely. Like they were carrying it around. Maybe it was to maneuver around a little trickier spots, but like they had a cart that they can take it,
And
and then they had to
and
take it to somebody to cut it in half and then deliver two halves, if I'm not
and how
mistaken.
much did it weigh? 85 pounds? Is that
Did I
what they
write down?
said?
I don't know if I
Or
wrote down the weight. I didn't write down the weight, but I think it was 85 pounds. It was
yeah, it was
heavy.
like hefty. Yeah, but it's like there's two of you, so and you're doing it together. So I mean, I would have been like, we can carry this. It's not a thing.
Well, it's good to know though that people actually take anatomy. I was really happy with a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I got this. Oh, I did well in this," or it made me smile to see people having some natural talents being able to shine in these type of situations. So, Diva, you would have shined at this little head of the class task, which is
I
awesome.
do think I would have been a bit worried about what kind of things are they gonna throw at you to make it that much worse for those who are confident in their anatomy, and it's like, they threw in extra
Pieces,
pieces that weren't there, and you are battling with
language.
the accent, and
Mhm.
so, there's things like that you have to take into consideration as well, and, yeah, it just seemed like there was areas where they could slip in something to make it more difficult for those teams that thought that they have this, whereas the cheese task was just and clearly was the better option, I think.
You just had to complete
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. Hi, Adrian. Adrian says Chada would have finished the anatomy task in 20 seconds. Yes, she's probably would be very, very good at it for sure. So Lumumba and Glenda, they do arrive pretty quickly. I believe Marcus and Michael get to this task first, and then Lumumba and Glenda were right behind them. And they didn't end up driving. What happened there? Like, how did they miss that they needed to drive to that task? What happened?
I was so worried, and then I was watching, and I looked, and they both have that clue, like, they're both looking at it and stopping, and, I understand when people get caught up with fighting with each other in there, and they weren't I wouldn't call what they were saying to each other, like, fighting necessarily, but it's that panic that seeps in, and they're just like, I don't think we should be," and he was like, trust me," so I don't know, and then finally, obviously we saw later that they read the clue and he's the one who noticed, and I'm just like and I feel like they were one of the teams previously being like, read that clue," and so, because they're one of my favorites, I was like no, they didn't read the clue.
But how did they know where to go? That's why I was just like, there's a team. I mean, Sarah, you might be able to remember. There was a team in recent seasons that was like, we read the clue slowly out loud every time, enunciating every word to make sure that we heard it.
Yeah,
Or
I think what happened though was that it said it at the beginning, like choose one of these two tasks, and they were reading like the other part. So I think wasn't until you like reread the beginning of it that you'd have to drive yourself to both of these tasks, which was like pre-instructions, let's just call it. I think that's what it was, and so they were hyper focused on like what it was and not the preamble that kind of really dictated how you need to get there. But yeah, I feel like we missed a part too. Like, how do you know where you're going? Like, what do you do? Like, it seemed like something was missing.
well, and that's another part. I know, like, read the clue in general is one of the biggest where people make the biggest mistakes on the race. It's definitely very easy to misread the clue or not read the clue. But knowing how to get to each task, I think is very, very, very important. And so, because like some people get dinged because like in the past they took a taxi when they were supposed to walk,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
for the fact that it could have been something that would have warranted a penalty, you would think that knowing how to get somewhere would be you'd be on high alert as to
Well,
like how
and
to do it.
and just coming off a leg where you had to make sure that you read that you needed to keep
Bring
that
your
entire
hat,
uniform. Yeah,
or
like
the
that
whole
whole
uniform.
yeah. So it's like that they're already getting, sneaky with this. So it's like let's make sure you're reading every word.
Make sure. Oh my god. I was just like, what's happening? Like, when are they going to figure this out? They're running so much. So Adrian's saying here that I think they
Yeah.
focused on the task and location and didn't read the fine
Yeah,
print
because
and other
you
content.
could see when he was, like, reading it, it was right at the top. It was, like, the first he was like, "Wait a minute," and it was, like, right there at the first thing that you would have to drive yourselves to both of these tasks, and
So they're part of group one. So Marcus and Michael, as I mentioned, were also group one. Oh no, there's just the two teams, which was different. I thought it was going to be three teams in group one, but then group
2
two,
teams, yeah.
leaving 15 minutes after group one at 9:45, was Claire and Derek, Linton and Sharik, Abby and Will, Luis and Michelle. Luis and Michelle are growing on me. Team Croquetas. I think that she has a really positive attitude, and like, I'm starting to like them. I guess maybe they're also showing them a little bit more. I'm starting to like them. How did you find your favorite team here, or one of your favorites, Abby and Will?
Again, like, I'm bewildered at that their edit every single time because it's like it's basically non-existent. So I'm like, "Are you just, like, really boring? And if you are, then why were you cast, and why do I like you so much?" But also, it's just, it wasn't there. So I'm hoping that there's something down the road that they become, like, really, and really become competitors because 'cause they're sort of middle of the pack,
Mhm.
and just nothing seems to be happening with Abby and Will right now. I don't know.
Not yet, not yet. So Luis, poor guy, couldn't figure out how to reverse. And it can be tricky, but usually reverse is either up to the right or it could be down. Like, there's a couple spots where reverse can be, but literally like puts it in neutral and has Michelle help him reverse.
Yeah, but maybe she doesn't know how to drive the car at all, so he was like, "You have to go out there and do it while I try to salvage this on this end." So, yeah, I thought that was a great moment to, like,
Oh,
watch because it,
yeah,
like,
it was
looked
great.
like she looked all you could see was, like, basically her head,
She's
and then
smiling though. She's so in good spirits. So she's not gonna push this car. Like, all right, get in, get in, get in. Um, yeah, Adrian is agreeing with me. Luis and Michelle are growing on me too. They can have real high energy, but I like him. Yeah, I definitely like them. Um, Unfortunately, like, I don't want to kind of background stereotype, but I don't ever remember the other dancing Latino team. Um, David and
I don't know her
uh
name.
Aubrey. And I never remember them. And I know she's a pitbull dancer.
Yeah,
Like, that's
but
all I got.
they're very, like, same Abby and Will thing, like, they're not showing them a lot, they're very kind of plain, like, even when we saw later when he's the fact that he's something about the mechanic and has, like, some sort of ability with it, and maybe he builds stuff, I don't remember, but it was, like, so and it just skimmed across, and it just wasn't they give them no depth in the edit, though specifically that team as well as Abby and Will, that
Mhm.
I'm just so
Yeah, like,
bewildered as to, like, what is it because they go soon, or is it just because they're not that exciting? I don't really know, but them too, those are the other teams that
and
but
I
for
guess
whatever reason, I don't remember them either that much.
I feel like, they rely a lot on, like, Derek and Claire to kind of narrate stuff that's going on. And so maybe they're just not that great at, like, talking about what's going on in the season in the game. And maybe later down the road they'll get more comfortable with their confessionals, and like we'll start seeing their personalities more. And so then maybe they'll show them more. But yeah, they definitely are not being. Oh shit. See? That's
What's
terrible.
that?
I'm sorry. I'm
Wait, who's
sorry.
Aubrey?
Are you sure? Oh no, Aubrey is a dancer and he was her student.
Oh, Aubrey and, yeah, yeah, the cheerleaders,
David.
as I call them. I call them the cheerleaders.
They're not cheerleaders though.
Weren't they cheerleaders? Like,
Mm. No,
professional
dance school, dance teacher and student. Are you sure that Aubrey wasn't?
No, no,
Now I'm
the one
confusing
I'm talking
myself.
about is the I don't know their names. You guys know I don't know their names. Um, Aubrey
Oh, oh
Aubrey
my god,
she's one of
brutal.
their
Thanks,
ballroom
Sarah.
dancers.
Brutal. Oh well.
What's the cheerleader team? What are their
That's
names?
Quentin and Maddie.
Maddie, not Aubrey. Okay, yeah.
Um, Terrible, but at least we'll figure it out eventually. So group three that's leaving at 10 a.m. is going to be the twins, Quincy and Maddie, the cheerleaders, Dom and Rich. And then I wrote the other dancers because I didn't put their name up there. And then it's Aubrey and David. Um, so I wrote down in big capital letters, like, why aren't they checking the clue? Because this was Lumumba and Glenda, so stressed for these two because they asked a woman on the street, and I could loosely translate what she was saying in Italian. She said something like, "Oh, that it's that way, but you can't walk," and she's like, "You have to take the bus." And that's what she's like, l'autobus, and like she's like, "Oh, no camminare,"
And he's
and
like, "Yeah, over there and then just turn, right? Okay, great.
but
Let's
she's like,
go."
she's saying like, "You no camminare," or something like that, which is like no walk, like take the autobus. And I'm like, ooh, she's like saying can't walk, take the bus. And they're just like, let's go for a little jog. And so
Like, dread was a wave of dread over me. I was like, "Oh, guys," I'm like, "You have been doing so well, and if I see you go out because of something like this when everything seems so tight, you know, you only left 15 minutes apart between each group and yikes."
finally they do read the clue, and I love that they didn't like have like an arguing moment there. They just were like, oh, and just turned around and just like they're like, well, we still are in this, we're still are in this.
It's
And it's a good leg for them to have this happen because they have so much time that they can make things
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, "You're blessed that it's a mega leg and you
happen.
have a lot of tasks to make up for this." Yeah, and it is a kind of amazing that in moments like I forget that they have only known each other for such a short period of time, like a few years, right? So, um, yeah, it's kind of impressive that you don't lose it on someone. Yeah, they're married, but they've only known each other for what, 3 years or something. So yeah, I'm impressed that they're kind of handling the stress of when they're not doing well.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. And I just watched them. They had a little interview on, oh my goodness, I can't remember whose pod it was. That's terrible. But they were really engaging. Oh, it was Purple Pants podcast. Bryce Isaiah had him on them on his channel, and they're just so likable. And it seems like we're not the only people that are obsessed with them. Like it's a sentiment of many people, and they were really engaging and super awesome on his pod. So I
can we
recommend you watch it.
can we talk about the opposite of who I'm really liking right now? Who's like kind of on the decline a little bit for me, and is Team Murphy a little bit.
Oh,
I'm slowly kind of getting over the whole it's just perception and it's just the thought of mind. Like and I believe all of that, but
mhm.
it's just so much all the time consistently that I was like, "Oh, she would drive me a little crazy being with her all day long."
I totally understand where you're coming from, and I could be like, I hear where she's coming from for sure, because I do believe in all those things. I do believe
Same.
that thoughts create your reality, and
Yeah.
that what you say is really important with the outcome that you want to have achieved. So if you start focusing on the negative things that are happening, then you're going to go in a negative spiral, and more negative things are going to come up in your perception. Like, absolutely, what she's saying is right. I think it's because I want her to still have hustle, and I want her to still try hard, and that it seems like it's like everything, like, is the way that's meant to be, which is
Yeah.
true. It's the way it's meant to be, but like I still want to have some competitive energy here. And I think that
Yeah.
that's probably why you're not enjoying them as much, is because yes, love and light and have positive attitudes around your activities, but you still want to see some hustle and some
Oh, when
competitive.
she was at the later competition and she was like, "I'm sending you positive vibes and encouragement," and I was like, "I accept, I accept." But, but at the same time, I'm like, it just seems like every 5 minutes, and yeah, it's just there's something just very human about letting the moment catch up to you, and I just kinda wanna see that a little bit more, I guess. So I don't know, but
Yeah,
anyway.
maybe it's a little bit too early. Like, it's like she will jump in with like these positive affirmations before it even gets out of hand, where you're kind of like, hey, like take a breath, like breathe or whatever, like remember, like what, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
like she doesn't even allow it to get it to escalate, which I mean, maybe it's good that they won't be in a really bad spot where they need to get out of, but
yeah,
I
but I
can
feel
understand what you're
but I
saying.
feel like I feel like I still like it kind of he's still held back because I don't know, I just feel like he wants to say something and then just doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like he's really underneath her thumb.
So I don't know that it really helps him. Maybe it does, I don't really know, but I don't know. I just want to see her lose it one time. I just want to see her like full, throw
Just a
that out
little
the
bit.
window and just like absolutely lose her mind, and I will love it forever. So
Yeah, there's a term called toxic positivity that is kind of is in the spiritual like spirituality world, and that's when you actually are kind of removed from reality, and then you just put like a band-aid of like happiness and rainbows. And so maybe that's also what you're picking up, is that like it's like masking reality a little bit and not allowing the realness to come
mm,
through, like immediately just putting like some sticker of happiness on top of it without actually dealing with the issue. So that
that's
could be
a good
what's
way
going
of
on.
putting it, and I feel like that might be the thing. So yeah.
Dolores is here with us too. So honestly, I meditate daily and I believe in affirmations. But if I was trying to concentrate on something and somebody kept on shouting at me and telling me stuff, it would bother me more. Absolutely. If I don't need you to tell me like, just breathe, love and light. Like if I'm not in the mood for that right now, like that would definitely drive me crazy. Even though I sign my name with love and light for my spiritual stuff. You know what I mean? So the people over at head of the class are, for the most part, I think I got all the names down. So Linton and Sharik, Abby and Will, Aubrey and David, Quinton and Maddie, and the twins all were doing head of the class. And it seems as though some people are a lot better at it than others, that being Quinton and Maddie. So she was really good at anatomy in college, and they get it on their first try. They have 8 minutes to listen to this lecture, and then they have 90 seconds to be able to go and put down I don't know how many pieces that they received, but the different body parts, organs, bones in their specific spots. So 90 seconds kind of short, so that's probably also like if people had a little bit longer, they may have been able to figure it out faster. But that's the time. A lot of people that they just didn't get the pieces on. I'm like, get those pieces on the board before you start like
Yeah, and it seems
thinking
like
about
they
it.
just don't have a clock there or anything really, so it's just like time, and you're like, "Oh, wow, that
I
went
would
by quick."
100% at
Yeah.
least get every piece on the board every single time. I wouldn't want them to call time without having all pieces on there.
But even still, there was, like, a variety of people, like, how well people did versus not, but I just don't think it was that big of a gap, of a difference.
So Sarah's saying that she lost it in the first leg. LOL. Sometimes the love and light people are the most stressed people.
No, I want, like, a full-blown meltdown is what I want. I want, like, full-blown, like, cuss someone out, like, a full-blown I just like that. That's what I want.
I wouldn't mind seeing, the take the lid off,
I
whoa, what
I
happens?
like having a team in The Amazing Race that, they're abusive towards each other a little bit. Those types of things where you're like, "Ooh, that marriage isn't gonna last." Like, I want something like that.
A little bit. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit
And
fun
I
just to
and I and
see.
yeah, and I feel like I'm just lacking that team right now. So,
Yeah, is who would be that team?
very
Yeah,
nicey-nicey right
maybe,
now.
well, it hasn't been too stressful yet. So let's see if the stress raises a little bit more and you might get a little bit more from some of these teams. I believe the big cheese people were Luis and Michelle, Derek and Claire. I don't even have Marcus and Michael on here because they were pretty much done before most
They
people
did
got there. There was a
they did
little
the
overlap
cheese.
with Claire and Derek, but they did it pretty quickly, pretty seamlessly.
They did the cheese, yeah. But,
So
I guess, like, the worst team out of the, head of the class was, Sharik and, um,
Linton.
Linton, yeah.
Yes, they did it a lot of times for sure. And so it was really, I was like, oh no, I don't want them to like fall too far because like they're also one of my favorite teams. And so I like, and they've been doing pretty well so far. But then I was like, oh, it's a mega leg though. They have a gazillion things. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever. Like it's like
Well, and that's why for us, we're like, anyone can catch up, so there's not really that stake behind it, you know what I mean?
you're
It's
just
like
like,
you're watching it, you're like, "Oh, a little worried," but at the same time, you're like, "Well, you have time. You have
yeah, you
time."
have so many more tasks. So hmm. So they're going to the Ducati factory. Have you heard of this motor vehicle company?
Girl, I never heard about these things before in my life.
I've never either. And so like not that I
Like,
think that I know cars,
cars.
but I just
Well,
thought that
I
it
like how Derek said cars too, because I was like, "Cars? What?" He's like, "Oh, motorcycle." Whoops.
Derek is pretty funny. That's what I've actually learned about him from other people in exit interviews and stuff like that. That Derek is like really funny, but they don't always show like all of his humor.
Yeah, well, that moment when he was rushing up to the task and
Marcus was
meeting,
there.
yeah, and that moment, I was like, "Oh, that's like those moments I live for." Like that's like one of the best. He's like running and he like jumps on him kind of thing, and
He's
yeah,
saying, he says to him, he's like, when you see Marcus, you know you're not in last,
yeah.
which is true. And then gave him a hug jump. So I don't know if you watch The Bachelorette right now or The Bachelor,
No, not
but
now.
the hug jump is also called a hujube. I think that I can't remember the Game of Roses maybe coined it. And so the huju is the hug jump, and they actually treat the huju as a sport. And so like they rate it. It's like, okay, a running huju. It's like you run and you and jump and wrap your legs around the guy. Or it's a standing huju. So it's like a standing and then jump and wrap your legs around the guy. And so I thought it was funny that Derek gave Marcus a huju.
Yeah.
Well, huju. So who's ready for a break, Jonathan? I think you are.
If you want to be there for till nightfall, because I'm like, I I don't know how I would do. I just don't foresee. So me doing super well. Like in Marcus, was it Marcus who said, there's people, one of them who said like there's people who pay people to do things, and then there's people who,
Marcus said that, yeah.
yeah, I'm the person who pays people to do things. I'm like, they're like, people will be like, Jonathan, just hang up your picture right there. You can just nail in the wall. Like it's pretty. I'm like, I pay people to do that. Not that I have money. I will be broke and just pay people to do that for me or beg them to do it for me. Because yeah, I'm just not that person. And I once put like an IKEA bookshelf upside down. I put it together like upside down, the shelves. And my sister, who's 6 years younger than me, who was like 12 at the time, because I think I was 18. I left, and she was like, I'll redo it for you. Just don't worry about it. I was like, thank you. And I came home and it
Did
was
you
done
pay her?
properly.
Did you give her some money?
No, I didn't
Victoria
give her
knows
no
what
money.
type you are, Jonathan.
You know what type? I'm not the type to do it. So I don't know.
um
I feel like
if
I don't know if I could, but
if
maybe.
that was your response, then I would take this task.
I would just look at you and be like, I don't know.
It would worry me, even though like I'm good with puzzles, and so you're good with puzzles too. So I would think
Yeah.
that you would be able to figure these things out. But if you have maybe like the fear of like assembling
I mean,
electronics or
I
bikes and stuff like that,
I would do better than Claire because I know how tools work, and I've used where she's like, "Oh, what's happening?" Like I was like, "Why did you pick this, Claire?" But yeah, so I feel like we wouldn't be out because of it. But I'm no was it Molly or Emily who did I'm know them because um
it was Emily that did it.
yeah, so I mean that's wow, but I would do better than Claire, I think.
Yeah, this okay. This is the thing with Claire. I'm like, is Claire the weak link on this team? I'm like, Claire, like I loved you on Big Brother, and I
Yeah.
still like you on this season, but she stresses me out when she
Oh,
does a task.
almost dropped the cheese. Like, remember that? Like earlier? And I'm
What?
like, and then she's like doing this, and I'm like, why does it feel like Claire's doing everything and then not doing it super well? Like,
Now I'm thinking though, because we were talking about this in like on Twitter about the fact like why is Claire doing this task? Like it just seems like something that maybe she shouldn't do necessarily. But what I'm thinking is that they wanted Derek to be on the second task in case it's something difficult that maybe he would be better at doing it and under pressure than Claire. So knowing that's a mega leg, there's going to be another task that
yeah,
he is going to have to
for
do.
sure. Yeah. But
That's
also, like,
probably why.
Derek might be terrible at that. Like maybe she knows that he would be even worse. I have no idea.
I feel like he pays a little bit better, closer to detail, especially the fact that he's really good with music and instruments. He's probably learned how to
Right.
like put together
And
instruments
I
and stuff
just
like that
and I just wouldn't put like kind of Claire back to back after there's all this
after
pressure.
the yodeling.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And she's like, "Oh, I can't do bad at this." I mean, that alone can just trip you up, So,
Dolores says pride. I think Claire was doing it for redemption.
yeah,
Yeah, that too. But I think it's better that she did this first, knowing that it's a mega leg, because they got her taking a long time potentially out of the way. And hopefully also the producers were thinking that the men will do the sports car or motorcycle task, and that maybe the second roadblock is going to be something that's going to be physical, that it's going to be all like the women that might not be able to like to do it as easily as a guy would. So maybe that will work to their favor, because they would
Right.
probably assume that the men would be doing this
I
task.
guess it's like, for Claire, it's like get back on that horse and just like try to,
That motorcycle, that
try
Ducati.
to try to accomplish it, being successful in one of these.
Sarah, I don't think it's very stressful when like my favorite teams are not doing well at something, because I just want them to be very good at everything. I don't think he could be just as bad. I just don't think so. Especially I've watched.
Claire's tall, right?
Yeah,
Like
she's
Claire,
tall.
yeah. So I mean, tall women, and this is a general statement, it's not true to everybody. I'm just saying my experiences. I find the tall women that
A little
I know to be
clumsy.
kind of clumsy, yeah,
Hmm.
and not super great with like
Their
certain things.
limbs.
And I feel like Claire is living up to that. So
When she even said, I think on Big Brother, that she is super clumsy and she doesn't have control of her limbs really. So yes, that assumption about Claire, I would say to be true. But so I've watched a couple of their recaps of the season, and to me, they're recapping it like from people that run the whole race. So I feel like they will get to final three, and they are recapping like people that go far in the race. And it also seems, because like he takes digs at her all the time about how bad she is at stuff, and I just don't know if he would still be giving her those digs if he also sucked. So I'm
right.
thinking that he's going to excel on his side, and like, and she's going to be the
If
weak link.
or if it costs them the race, right? So it's like I
Yeah.
both. Yeah,
So it feels to me that he's
mm,
definitely does
better.
better than Claire.
Yeah, it
At least her, anyways.
makes sense.
So back over at head of the class, we find that Lumumba finally reaches there, and Dom and Rich are seeing them, and they're like, "Whoa!" Like they left in the first group. I wish we got a confessional from Lumumba and Glenda, being like seeing Rich and Dom at something, being like, "Oh my god." Just kidding. But they were happy to at least see another team, because that means that they're far
And
behind, but they're
and
not that far behind.
and those dynamics always interest me because you have one team who's like really hyped up that the starting team is where they're at, and another team who's disappointed because oh no, we like the back team has caught up with us. So you're really kind of going into the same task with like two different mindsets.
Yeah.
And I feel that Glenda, has such this positive um outlook that it didn't affect them either of the team, that kind of unfortunately, like this is the last. I guess they probably assumed they were last anyway because of what was happening, and they were the last car that left. So
I mean, I would be
um
happy to see another team, even if it was like, oh, but I'm seeing this team, like I'm really far behind.
yeah.
Most likely. You're right, Dolores. Claire's parents did tell DX to not let her drive. And she does tell a story on her channel, or on his channel, about after the first leg, remember when he was hamming it up when he was doing I think it was the ice, and so he ends up like grabbing someone's beer and like chugging a beer like on their way to the pit stop, I think it was. And then their producer or camera person was like, hey, like you drank that beer, now you can't drive. So Claire had to actually drive to the pit stop, and she can't parallel park. And they had to parallel park in these marked spots between some pylons. And she literally like ran over the pylons, and the guy is just like, like the attendant's like, what's happening here? Like, why is this so bad? So yes. Um,
What's Claire good at is what I want to know. I
well,
mean,
we're gonna learn.
I
We're gonna
like
learn. Hold
Claire,
on.
and I'm like I feel like she has some strengths. I just want to know what those are.
Yes, I do.
The
Hopefully, we're going
bells.
to see something in her strength. Well, the bells was Derek's strength, and she was able to do her part.
Yeah, do her part. So, I mean, but yeah, okay, we'll see.
So I agree. Okay, so at the end of this task, like Glenda Lumumba did it a couple of times, head of the class, and they got them to line up in front of like behind each other. So in front was Dom and Rich, and then behind them was Glenda and Lumumba. And the judge goes and gives it to Glenda and Lumumba, like around Rich and Dom. And he's like, and then he gives it to them as well. I'm like, They faked me out as well, but I was like,
Also, I loved when he was, like, throwing it at some of the teams, like, on the table, like, on the table. I was like, "Oh, okay. What's happening?"
yes, it's true. Yeah, do you know what? That's right, Jill. Navigating is definitely Claire's strength. She and Derek gives her props about that because at one point he was doing the navigating. He's like, how do you do this?" Like, and she's like, "Yeah, well, I'm good at it." So yes, she's good at navigating that, and that is what has been helping them big time. A lot of people
Mhm.
are not good at navigating, and
Yes.
this is helping them jump a lot of spots. So
Yes, for sure.
having a good navigator is actually
It's
really good for your
everything.
team.
It's everything. Yeah.
It's probably the best strength that you could have there. So we do learn, as many people have mentioned, that David is a helicopter mechanic, and so he pretty much was able to speed through that roadblock, which was really impressive. I'd be terrified to be a mechanic for big important vessels. I work on an airline or airplane, and like to see like airplane mechanics, I'd be like, aren't you stressed that like something that you do would cause like a malfunction? And like, anyways, it's very stressful. So hopefully, he's good at his job, because I wouldn't be able to be a helicopter mechanic. It's terrifying. And then Emily, we see, is also really good at paying attention to detail.
Yeah.
And she was able to bang through this roadblock. She
Like,
left second.
what a moment. Like, that's really, like, one of the highlights, if not the highlight of the episode, really, is just kind of seeing that happen, and it's, like, not because she has prior experience with this, but because of applied skills that you have,
Mhm.
which is, like, amazing, and then seeing her sister just being like, "I'm still discovering things, or we're discovering things about each other," and I mean, like, wow, super impressive.
So impressive. And she kind of says, like, she's a single mom and she helps her kids put together stuff and toys and IKEA furniture. And so, yes, applied skill really worked for her in her favor here.
Like,
So
you could go in there and you could be like, "Oh, we don't have a man on our team," and, like, thinking, like, all these, like, stereotypical stuff. Nope, they went in there and, like, "Yeah, this is like a puzzle, and I'll figure this out," and I'm like, "Oh my god, if this team does not make the final 3, I am rioting.
riot.
I'm rioting."
I know. I mean, I'm obsessed with twins in general, but the fact that they have this amazing story, I love that they're discovering things about each other. I love that, like, just like being so proud of somebody that like it's kind of a stranger, but it's a stranger that you love and you want to see do well and you want to learn more about. Like, so it's just like such a cool dynamic just to see her shine here and like have her sister be able to witness it. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah, an
And you could
awesome
and you
moment.
could have this, like, story and then the players be flops, but you don't. You have they're, like, great, amazing race players as well, and they're doing
Mhm.
very well, so, I loved it. That was the best part of it.
Definitely the best part of it. Marcus and Michael did leave this roadblock first, but Michael took a really long time. He's not really as good at paying attention to details, definitely as Emily was, because she was able to catch up big time. She was in group two, I think it was. Was it group two or group three? No, group three. She
3.
left. She was in group
Yeah,
three.
3.
So group three being able to kind of catch up with group one on this task, I think is super impressive. And what it seemed like the trick was is that some of the pieces you had to put one piece down before the other. And I feel like if that would be something that you would catch right away, because there's a lot of doors and cupboards and stuff like that. You have to put one cupboard and the other.
Yeah,
And
you can't
so
tighten the screw all the way, or else you won't be able to fit the other side, you know what I mean? It's like it's very similar to that kind of a thing where you kinda have to
really,
do everything kind of at once, rather than, like, try to complete one section, then move on, which I think is a natural feeling for most people to want to do, but usually doesn't work when you're building things.
so Sarah doesn't cry, and apparently the twins make moisture well up in her
Oh,
eyeballs.
some moisture, some
Sarah. Oh, that's so sweet.
perspiration in your eyeballs. Yeah.
And yes, they are the only all-female team standing. Yes, they have to get to the finals. They have to. They have to. Oh my god. I mean, imagine if they won even. Like, I'm not gonna give them the win right now because like there's a lot of competitive teams for sure.
Yeah.
But I want them in the final three for sure. For sure. So Michael finishes first, and they're going to be going to Florence, to Villa Bardini. Emily's out second. And then we see that Rich and Dom finally show up, as well as Lumumba and Glenda. They get to the roadblock. They're really happy that they're at least seeing other teams still at the roadblock. I'd be so thankful. Unfortunately, they showed up when other teams were completing the roadblock. So everybody started leaving, like check, done. They were able to assemble the two steps of this motorcycle before Glenda and Lumumba and Rich and Dom left. Now, Rich does this task. Rich is kind of good at this task, and he gets out way more quickly than Lumumba. And then we end the episode.
Yeah,
with Rich and Dom running away and leaving Lumumba and Glenda at the roadblock.
Yeah, and I feel like I feel like where they cut it is just such a like psych moment. Like it's like I feel like he probably finishes shortly thereafter, and moving on to the next.
They're gonna finish fourth
part.
still. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're gonna
yeah.
be able to power through.
Yeah,
I think.
no, I would be devastated if they left this soon. But also, because I know how close they all are still together, and I feel like if he was really struggling, they would have shown that, and that panic. And I just feel like it's more of a I'm just not there yet kind of a moment. So I'm not too concerned for them. Yeah.
Me neither. Me neither. So Adrian says in his opinion, whoever gets eliminated next week will be sad either way. I could lose a couple teams. Unfortunately, I could lose Rich and Dom.
I could lose it too. Yeah.
I think that they're lovely and I enjoyed them for these two legs, but I think I've gotten enough. They're not good enough at tasks for me to be rooting for them. So they've done their job.
I'm about 50-50. There's probably like half the teams I want to stay and half the teams I'm like, meh.
I could lose Aubrey and David. I can barely remember who they are, and they haven't really been adding anything exceptional. I thought it was awesome that he was able to bang through the roadblock, but I kind of need a little bit more personality or something. And so she's really chipper and she's very bubbly, but it just seems like it's not enough. I don't know, maybe because he's so quiet, like I don't know, but I could lose them. I'm sorry.
And you could probably lose like unless you share my blind
Abby and Will,
yeah.
I can lose them. Yeah. I mean, I would hope that there's more to them,
Yeah.
but right now they're just like a smile with a cute story. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's no life to them. There's no I mean, with her more so, but it's just still like there's nothing really there and nothing really happening, and I don't know.
Anybody else I could lose? On the button would be Team Croquetas. Like I enjoyed them a little bit more this particular episode. And so maybe they have some room to maybe get on my favorite list, but they're kind of like in the middle for me. Everybody else, so I think I want to stay. Like Claire and Derek, I want to stay for sure. Lumumba, obviously, and Glenda, I want to stay. Twins, I want to stay. Michael and Marcus, I want to stay.
Yeah, those are probably my top 4 teams that you just listed. Those are my top 4.
So who are we missing? Oh, and I do like Linton and Sharik. So those are my 5 teams right now that I'm
they're probably more like
5th though, but yeah. Oh, 6 because you like Abby and Will.
Yeah. I would go. Where do I put Abby and Will? I put Abby and Will 4th, I guess. Yeah, and then
4th. Who are you kicking out?
What were our options? Not
so we got
Emily
Claire and
Molly,
Derek.
Not Claire and Derek.
Twins.
No.
Wait, twins number 1 for you?
Glenda and
okay. Yeah, sorry. Glenda and Lumumba. Twins. Derek and Claire. I don't know if you have them that high, but
yeah, that's my exact order. You're right. Yeah, those 3.
And then Abby and Will.
Will, yeah, and Abby, yeah.
Do you have Sharik and Oh no, do you have Marcus and
Marcus.
Michael? That's
Marcus and
fifth.
Michael is fifth, and then I would say Sharik and her
Okay,
father.
I'm
Yeah,
okay with that. I just would
six.
kick
Yeah.
out kick out Abby and Will.
Wait, who am I leaving out? Because there was 10 teams, right?
Well, that's not a good sign. Oh,
Oh,
Quinton
I
and
guess.
Maddie. Quinton and Maddie. I do like them, but
Oh
they're in the middle for me.
yeah.
They're on the high side of the middle.
Yeah. I don't know. Things could those middle teams can kind of change a little bit for me. So depending on how well they do and what happens, I can, root for others, perhaps.
So Adrian wants to know, out of all the teams standing, who's our dream final three? Who do
Molly and
we?
Emily, I think we can speak for both of us.
Yes,
Uh, as well for both of us, Derek and Claire.
Claire, and then Lumumba and Glenda. Like that actually is a
Same. Yeah.
really solid final three.
Yeah.
Solid. I don't know if it will happen because Marcus and Michael are very, very strong.
Yes.
But they could fall from grace. It's so easy to have a task that they're just not good at that other people are better at. So it's possible that they aren't great at everything because we're only on what, like 3.5. So, but like they could end up being in there. But that would be my dream final three. Like that would be such a great winner. Like, oh, that'd be awesome.
And unfortunately, if I do have to kick someone out to replace them, I
Derek and Claire, right?
I would, yeah. I just need Molly and Emily,
I
and I
know.
need, the newlyweds. I mean, as
I
well. So
mean, I could see Claire and Derek being a fourth place team. Like that's very possible for sure. I can see that. Man. Yeah, Derek. Well, I really, really like Derek and Claire, obviously, because we know them. Um, but yeah, I think Lumumba and Glenda, I would love to see in that final three.
we know them, we like them, but like at the same time, I mean, I'm not obsessed with them. I like in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, final three for sure. But I mean, yeah, I'm obsessed with
Other teams more.
the two teams right now that I've just mentioned. And so yeah, they're kind of like my third, I guess, right now. So
Well, that was fun talking about half of a mega leg. It's a mega leg, but then it's like a mini
yeah,
episode.
I mean, Mega Leg the challenges weren't that great as far as I was concerned. I mean, elements, but still much better than Amazing Race Canada. So
Mhm. Like way better. Like this task was like better than any task that they did on the season. Kind of. But this has been really enjoyable. Obviously, I love talking about the Amazing Race with you and everybody here in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here and sharing our love for this season and this cast. This cast is so good. The fact that we have like at least 7 teams that we're kind of into, it's great. Like usually we're just like, oh, there's 2 that I like, or there's 3 teams I like, but majority of teams I'm pretty into. So it is definitely fun recapping with you.
yeah, I just need the drama. A team needs to like have a meltdown. I need the drama. That's part of Amazing Race for me is the a team meltdown. So I'm waiting for it. I have hopes.
I feel like it's gonna happen, right? Like the drama
I
comes
don't
when people
know.
are about to get eliminated, right? And so the fact,
Everyone's so nice though. I don't know. Are they? Who's gonna have the drama?
but like
Who? Who's gonna
maybe
bring it?
Dom and Rich, she might, the top might blow, right? She's still a Leo, she still has some fire energy. Like
Okay,
I could see
I'll be waiting.
maybe.
I'll be watching.
They could have a moment. I could see Marcus and Michael having a moment, brothers
What about
having
Quentin and Maddie? I feel like
no.
I don't know together, but like because they seem to get along so well, but like I don't know. Them getting mad at themselves, like individually, perhaps maybe there might be a moment. I don't know.
But they were so understanding when he got them lost. So I
That's
think they're
I
fine.
know, I don't honestly. I just don't see it. I don't think there will be, and I'm like disappointed in that because they're all
Marcus and
so
Michael,
nice.
though, I can see them getting into a fight because Marcus was pretty disappointed in Michael for not doing the car or the motorcycle building task faster.
So like
So
after a while, you're saying it like wears on them a bit. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to be a little bit honest with my brother if he's not doing that well at something. You know what I mean? So
Oh my
some
gosh, if I did this with a member of my family, you would see the Portuguese come out so quick. You'd be like, This is so toxic.
So yeah, I feel like some of these relationships, eventually the stress of the race might allow them to explode a little bit. So you might get some of the moments that you are hoping for. So fingers crossed. Maybe the second half of this mega leg might get explosive.
Okay. So
Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you for being here again. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Please, it's helpful to make this community get a little bit bigger. And like this video. Likes are really important. That YouTube algorithm loves the likes. And leave a comment. I want to hear your top 3 and who you would like to see be eliminated this week. After this mega leg, who would you like to see out, and who are your top 3? So who do you want to see, running in the final 3? One of them being the winners. So let us know that in the comments. It would be amazing, and we will see you guys next week. Bye. Take care, everybody. I did.